Hey, what's up guys? It's Texumer talking to you here. And today I will talk about the Apple product roadmap that we are expecting for 2022. Because Mark Gurman released last Sunday a report on its Power On network where he spoke about all of the new products that we should expect to come in 2022. All of the new refreshes. Of course, he didn't talk about the new iPhone lineup because I don't know. He talked about that before and that's more than expected to come. But he talked about the iPad lineup, the Mac lineup and the Apple Watch lineup. What should we expect? What products will Apple refresh? What products will be left out of this update cycle? And what new features are coming to these products? So if you are excited for this new 2022 refresh cycle, don't forget to leave a like down below, comment what your favorite product on this video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. So before no further ado, just roll the intro. Let's first start with the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch will have in 2022 for the first time 3 models. According to Mark Gurman via Bloomberg's, we are expecting to have 3 models. The Apple Watch Series 8, which will probably feature the squared off design that was supposed to come on the Apple Watch Series 7. We are getting a new and refreshed Apple Watch SE with the old design, but with better chips and of course, probably, we are not sure, but this is a guess of mine, we will probably get an always on display, a weaker one just like the Series 5, but the first generation always on display could be coming to the Apple Watch SE. This is not a leak or a rumor. This is my personal prediction if we are getting a new redesign to the Apple Watch Series 8. Of course, with this, the Apple Watch Series 8 had to be coming with bigger batteries, which would mean better battery life and even more new features and performances. So that when you are buying the Apple Watch SE, you will be able to get always on display, but it will be worse in other metrics. So the always on display wouldn't be a deal breaker for you just to completely cannibalize the Apple Watch Series 8 sales. So these 2 models we already know and they are pretty cool. We could get new finishes, new colors. We will probably be keeping the same band support because who doesn't want to use the same old bands that they have in their collection? And no one wants Apple to replace the connector on these Apple Watches because if they did, imagine losing the support for these bands. That would suck. You would have to buy new bands and the old ones wouldn't work. There's some very expensive bands out there that you would already bought and those will be completely obsolete if Apple changes the connector. So that would be something that Apple wouldn't do because their customers would be fighting back against that. But of course, these 2 models we already know, like I told you, and so Mark Gurman talked about a 3rd model coming. It was rumored by John Prosser and other leakers before, but it is a rugged Apple Watch. This Apple Watch could feature an entirely different design, which would mean that it would be more squared off, just like the Apple Watch Series 8 rumored design. We are not sure if it's still being squared off, the 8, but Mark Gurman talked about this Apple Watch being more squared off, more designed to be more durable to you wear, like when you are going for bike riding or boxing or some kind of dangerous activity that could break your Apple Watch when you are wearing. So this rugged Apple Watch will be just insane for outdoor workouts for everyone who likes these rugged type of watches. Now we will have the Apple Watch version of that. This is quite incredible because I think that now that the Apple Watch has stagnated just like the iPhone, it does need new introductions to the market. It does need to diversify its lineup to reach the different like small niches of the market. And so I believe that Apple doing this rugged Apple Watch, they will be able to successfully conquer another part of the watch market, which is the outdoor explorer watch. Just like Garmin have those watches for bike riding, for swimming, for running, now we will be able to get a rugged Apple Watch designed for outdoor and durability, and it will be probably even more waterproof than the older Apple Watches. It will be even more durable, but it will take a hit, probably won't have any always on display, and some different features like better battery life but worse performance. It will have less features like less health sensors, for example, electrocardiogram. You'll be able to take one, but I don't know. It will be quite strange, quite happy to see what Apple will do with this Apple Watch, and I'm very excited to see a new kid on the block on the Apple Watch lineup. Me, I don't consider it because the things I do not justify a rugged Apple Watch. Although I do a lot of bike riding outdoor, I don't think I need a rugged Apple Watch because my Apple Watch is just protected under my jacket, and so a normal Apple Watch is just fine. I'm looking forward to the Series 8 because I need a new Apple Watch. The Series 4 is getting very old, the battery life is not good at all, I have to charge it twice a day, and so I'm looking forward to this Apple Watch Series 8 and see what Apple does with this new design. Mark Gurman didn't talk about having new health sensors, and so I wouldn't expect any new improvements in health sensors to his Apple Watch Series 8. The blood glucose monitor is still a few years away, so let's see what Apple does. If it gives like a new Apple Watch sensor, it will be cool, but I'm not expecting any of that. Maybe a chip improvement and a little bit better always on display, brighter display, and a little bit faster and the same battery life, I suppose. Then Mark Gurman talked about the iPad lineup. For this last part of the 2021 year, we got two refreshes to this lineup. We got the iPad 9, which is the budget model, and we got the iPad mini. Yes, the iPad mini, the so long-awaited refresh to the iPad mini was so cool. I like the iPad mini so much, and it was quite fun to use. Then we got the new iPad 9, which had the same design on the contrary of the iPad mini, which had the new iPad Pro design, the new A15 chip, and the Apple Pencil center stage, while the iPad 9 got center stage, the A14 chip, but it still kept a lot of older design features, like it still had huge bezels and white button on the home button. But the thing is, Apple hasn't upgraded the iPad Air since 2020, and right now it's not a good deal because you can get a refurbished iPad Pro from 2018, which is way better, has ProMotion, Face ID, and you can get the iPad mini for less, which is way more powerful because it has the A15, it has Touch ID, it has the new design, it's a little bit smaller, but it has the same battery life, and it has all of these features like center stage and all of those stuff, which make the iPad mini better than the iPad Air, in my opinion. And so Apple will start refreshing the iPad lineup by the iPad Air. They will give it the A15 chip, they will give it the center stage, and that's probably it. They will probably not give it OLED because it was rumored that Apple would give the iPad Air OLED, but right now I don't believe that the iPad Air will get the OLED display because I think that Apple is betting still on mini LED, and so it wouldn't make any sense to put OLED on the iPad Air, only if it will be a low-grade OLED. But I don't think Apple will do that. I think they will keep the same liquid retina LCD like the iPad Pro. Though I believe that this iPad Air will be a good deal, not the best though, because you will be able to buy the refurbished 2018 iPad Pros, which will be still better because they have ProMotion and Face ID. In my opinion, those are very, very good still, and if you are worried about buying a 2018 iPad Pro, don't be, but if you are, buy the 2020, it's $100 more, and it's still the same kind of deal, it's way better than the iPad Air. So, in my opinion, the iPad Pros refurbished are way better than the iPad Air lineup, so do not buy the iPad Air lineup in my opinion, but Apple will refresh it with some new chips and some new center stage features because it has to keep up with the iPad mini from 2021. Then we will have an iPad 10. This iPad 10 will be a refresh to the iPad 9. It will probably come around the September timeline with the iPhones, and it's an iPad 10. Like the other iPads, the baseline iPads are very, very cheap. They are dirt cheap, and Apple just puts the new processor in that iPad, and that's it. Keeps the same design. They don't laminate the display. I mean, it's a bad iPad in terms of hardware, but it has the A15 chip, it has the iPad OS, it does the same stuff that the most expensive iPad Pros do, and they are very cheap. For students, they are great, they support Apple Pencil, and so I think that this is one of the best deals in tech right now. And so Apple likes to update it every single year. It's almost like the iPhone. We are expecting it to come normally on March or September. In the last two updates, Apple released it on September together with the iPhones, so I believe that Apple this time will release it again with the iPhones in September. Then finally we have the iPad Pros. Yes, Gurman talked about the fact that the iPad Pros will be updated in 2022. Although they were updated in 2021 with the new M1 chip and support for a lot of cool things, iPadOS 15 wasn't great and it didn't give us what we wanted, which was a better Files app and Pro apps support. And of course, although they gave us ProRes support and they gave us a Thunderbolt port, iPadOS and the iPad Pro is still very far from being a laptop replacement. And so Gurman is talking about the fact that Apple is pushing even further in terms of hardware developing with the iPad Pro, because in 2022 we will see a new redesigned iPad Pro, not the front but the back. The back now will be glass and will support wireless charging. Of course, other leakers are talking about the fact that this iPad Pro will feature MagSafe support. We are not sure if it's going to be an inductive charging method like the iPhones or a MacBook Pro approach with the MagSafe port. I'm not sure, but I would like to have the MagSafe port approach because I love my MagSafe port on my MacBook Pro right there. And so I think that this iPad Pro 2022 will be cool. It will feature the M2 chip, which will be even more powerful, more efficient, have way better GPUs. And let's see if this time Apple learns with their mistakes and releases cool, good software for the iPad Pro, giving us a better Files app, completely redesigned the OS. So it's way better and way more in line with a computer than it is with a tablet. Make it exclusive for the Pro lineup, make like the older generation iPad 9s and 10s have the iPad OS 15-like design, but give the iPad Pro lineup a toggle where they can enter Pro mode and simply get almost macOS-like OS. So, I mean, you could get an hybrid between those two, but improve iPadOS. Give us more Pro features, more powerful features like Xcode, Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro, or even give us a better Files app, a better way to integrate microphones and external microphones, a better way to integrate external cameras. Make this laptop, which right now it is, more of a laptop, because the iPad Pro would be perfect if it had way more support for stuff like the macOS Mac lineup has. And so I believe that the iPad Pro is such an untapped potential that Apple hasn't even considered it because they are afraid of cannibalizing their Mac lineup. But now with the Mac Silicon that we have on the Mac lineup, with the M1 Max, M1 Pro, MacBook Pros, we are so powerful that I couldn't imagine the iPad Pro killing the Mac lineup. But Apple needs to improve on the software if they want to keep selling iPad Pros, because in the future, just upgrading the hardware with stupidly big and huge upgrades that don't make any sense because the software is not going further. Also, I don't think it's the way to go, and I think that Apple has to work a lot on their software if they want to take the iPad Pro to the next level. Finally, we have the Mac lineup. According to Gurman, we will have 5 refreshes coming next year. And one of them is quite surprising, because let's start with the M1 MacBook Pro 13-inch. According to Gurman, we are going to see a refresh of this computer. And I have to say that I'm quite surprised, because I was expecting the Apple to kill this computer. It doesn't make any sense to have one right now. You have the M1 Pro base model, like in my last video I talked about that. The M1 Pro is so much better than this M1 MacBook Pro 13-inch, and the differences in prices when you stacked up the two in storage and RAM are not that different. $300 to $400. It's not enough to justify the differences, which is so much bigger on the 14-inch and better than the 13-inch. You have a better mini LED display, a better design in my opinion. You have more ports like HDMI and SD card slots. You have way better I/O, like I told you, way better webcam and way better performance. And so it doesn't justify you to buy and save the $300 and go for the M1 MacBook Pro 13-inch. And so I don't see why Apple is replacing this computer with a redesign or even a refresh. I don't think that Apple will do it, but according to Gurman, they will. So let's see what will happen. I'm kind of doubtful about this one. It's one of the parts that I don't really trust in this report, but if Gurman tells us, let's see what will happen. If they do refresh it, they will do it with the M2 MacBook Airs. And yes, Gurman confirmed that the M2 MacBook Airs will be coming. I'm so excited for this computer. It's the baseline for the Mac lineup in terms of portable computers, and this MacBook Air or MacBook, just MacBook, will be just insane. The M2 chip will be just insane. It will be based on the A15, a 5nm plus process, and I'm very excited for this computer. Of course, this M2 MacBook Air won't be expensive like the M1 Max or the M1 Pros, and so it won't be better than it. So I believe that it will be worse than these two computers. I don't need to upgrade or even consider upgrading. I don't need to review it. But I think that the M2 MacBook Air will be cool for everyday people that want to buy a very slim, very powerful, but very light laptop. Then we will see the M2 Mac Mini. According to Gurman, the M2 Mac Mini is coming. It will be having an M2 chip, replaced the M1 on the current M1 Mac Mini, and it will be cool, the same design, the same ports probably, but it will have way more powerful, will be more efficient, and it will be having a better GPU performance. And so just a little refresh 1.5 years later after the first release of the M1 Mac Mini, which was the best deal in tech in terms of computers. But again, after updating this base lineup in probably around March, Apple will do one of the most expected products of 2022, which is the iMac Pro and the iMac 27-inch. We don't know yet, but these two computers will replace the current bigger version of the M1 24-inch iMac. And so I believe, according to Grumman, we will see it around the March to WWDC timeline. And so I'm very excited for this computer. We are expecting to have a huge ProMotion mini LED display, which will have the M1 Max chip and the M1 Pro chip. We are not sure yet, but we could be seeing the first dual M1 Max chip, because Apple could be putting two M1 Maxes in this iMac Pro and make it way more powerful than the M1 Pro or even the M1 Max MacBook Pros that I have one right now, the 16-inch here, and I can tell you this is a huge beast, and the performance is just insane. So I'm very excited to see what Apple can do with this iMac Pro. This is just an improvement and such a jump that I couldn't see Apple not releasing it and not calling the iMac Pro. But let's see what happens. It will probably keep and retain the same design as the M1 iMac 24-inch. It will still have the chin, but it will have black bezels and it will have more professional colors like space gray and silver, and that's it. So this is all of it for Apple in terms of pro and pro-consumer technology. Then we will have the business and side of, like, not pros but studio pros and like real expensive computers and real big companies, which is the Mac Pro. This will be the last refresh for the Apple Mac lineup, and according to Grumman, is coming at the end of the year. This Mac Pro will feature Apple Silicon, and Grumman didn't specify that, but other leakers have, and they have told us that this Mac Pro will feature quad M1 Maxes, so 4 M1 Maxes, which would mean, let me think, 128 GPU cores, 40 CPU cores, and Jesus, 256 gigabytes of RAM. Gosh, I'm so excited for this computer, like one of the most powerful computers ever, let me tell you, because when you are not constraining the M1 Max, giving it infinitive power, which is being plugged to the power wall, and just keeping the performance at the maximum because it doesn't need to cool down, because the thermal design is so insanely good that I'm seeing that Apple will be creating one of the most powerful, nor the most powerful consumer and not overpowered and not overclocked devices and towers ever, because this Mac Pro will be so insanely powerful that I can't even imagine how it will be doing on exporting videos on Final Cut, because this Mac Pro is almost instant, and using this Mac Pro with Apple Silicon, Jesus, will be instant, like 0 seconds, you play export and it's done, because this MacBook Pro, it's like 1 to 2 minutes. A video like this takes 1, 2, 3, 5 minutes at maximum. If it's 4K 60 or even ProRes, it takes 8 minutes. But this Mac Pro could take like 1 minute, 2 minutes, which is just insane. Like, it will be very expensive. It will start around $6,000. It will be smaller than the current Mac Pro. And according to Luke Miani, it will be like a small cube box looking like the current Mac Pro, but it will be the same type of cheese grater design, smaller, because Apple doesn't need to put upgradable RAM, like huge power supplies. They just need to put 4 M1 Maxes and that's it. That's the Mac Pro. But I do believe that Apple will give it some upgrades and upgradability, like in form of you can buy one M1 Max and then you can buy 2 M1 Maxes, 3 M1 Maxes or 4 M1 Maxes, or even you could buy an expansion card or even buy a little bit more external RAM, because Apple will probably give it the 256 cap in terms of the RAM putting up on the CPUs, but then you could buy external RAM, which won't be as efficient, but you could go for almost 2 terabytes or 2.5 terabytes, just like on the Intel Mac Pro. Let's see what happens. I'm very excited for this Mac lineup refresh. I don't think the M1 MacBook Pro 13-inch will come, but again, Grumman can get it right every time. It has around 80% track record, 76 if I do believe on Apple Track, so it's not perfect. And I'm very excited for these products, and 2022 will be a fine year to be an Apple fan. Of course, the iPhone 14 will also come, and those are leaked too, but that's a video for the other day, because today I only covered Mark Gurman's report. And what are your thoughts on this report? Do you think that the iPad Air will be a good buy, according that you can buy a refurbished iPad Pro? Do you think that the M1 Pro and M1 Max MacBook Pros will be way better than these two computers that will come in 2022? Do you think that the M1 MacBook Pro 13-inch will come or will be killed? And do you think that this M2 MacBook Air will be as good as we are talking about and hyping up to be So let me know all of that on the comments down below, and while you're there, don't forget to leave a like, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, follow my social networks, Twitter and Instagram. Thank you for watching, I'm very happy for you, and if you reached this far onto this video, comment down below, tag Sumer, I like your videos, or tag Sumer, I hate your videos, according to your preferences. But that was it, this is Tech Sumer talking to you here.